There you go. If you guys are interested in getting therapy, I personally would recommend it. I go to therapy every week. It's something that I look forward to every week, to like helping me like understand like myself, my emotions, how to process things, maybe things that I'm doing wrong that I could do better, advice on like how to like move forward in life. I don't know. I really enjoy it. I really enjoy it. If you guys feel like you're struggling and you don't really know the next steps to take in your life or how to deal with certain emotions or certain people in your life, I would definitely recommend going to therapy and having somebody that you can talk to about it. Yeah. Therapy definitely does work. Like understanding why you are the way that you are, why you have certain reactions to things, and how you can control certain like emotional like responses, and being better for yourself and the people around you. That's important to me. Hello.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for having me today.
Of course, of course. I'm glad. I always talk to my chat about therapy, so it's really cool to be doing this.
Yeah, I was watching your intro to all of this and some of the comments coming in. It's such a great conversation that you're starting.
Yeah, my chat, they're pretty cool. And I want the best for them. I want them to understand themselves. And I know a lot of people can't afford to go, so I'm glad that I have the opportunity to work with Talkspace and give a discount to my community. Yeah, I feel like maybe a couple of years ago, if I was in therapy, I probably like would not be as open about it. I probably wouldn't be sharing it with people. But I feel like I'm in a space now where I understand that I'm not crazy. Like we all have issues. We all have trauma. It's something that as a human being is normal. So,
I
uh,
am so glad you brought that up because it absolutely has nothing to do with being crazy, right? It's really about mental wellness. Like people think mental health or mental illness, and it's actually about mental wellness. You don't have to wait until
stop,
you feel
senor.
really crappy to go talk to somebody. It's really about, having a person who's not a friend or a family member to talk to. One of the things that, I've been doing this a really long time. And one of the things that is really fascinating to me is we don't always realize how much we edit ourselves to family and friends until we talk to somebody who's not a family member or not a friend. And then you're like, holy cow, I really was editing myself. Not because we are lying, but just because we don't want to hurt their feelings. We don't want them to worry about us. We don't want to sound like we're bragging about something. And then you go to a third party and you really have this incredibly safe space that's just for you. And it's a very powerful, freeing experience. And so when people wait till it's really at that point of where they feel like they're going to break, then they seek the help. It's incredible if people do it sooner than that and they don't have to reach a breaking point.
So, okay, I'm trying to figure out how to word this. There's a lot of people with a lot of issues, but there's also people that feel like maybe they don't have enough issues to go to therapy. What do you like? What are your thoughts on that? Like, do you have to have a certain like level of trauma to go to therapy, or do you think that it's for everybody, like anybody with any level of, you know, trauma?
Yeah, that's a great question. Not everybody who goes to therapy actually has trauma in their background, right? Some people use it as the equivalent, like, for personal growth and wanting to explore questions they have about work and questions they have about their relationships, questions they have about what they want to do next in their life and figure it out. So it's not necessarily about, I had a really tough childhood and trauma, or I had a traumatic event happen because I was in a natural disaster or a car accident, or, trauma like we think about with a big T, like all capital letters,
Mm-hmm.
right? It can simply be because they're kind of just grappling with life's questions and they want that person to kind of bounce it around. Or they may have grown up in a household that, their parents push them to go one direction in life and they're really miserable in their career and they want to do what you want to do and they want to figure out, how do I get off this treadmill? I am in this horrible career. I went down the path my parents wanted. I'm miserable. Now what? Right? And they want to explore to figure out and untangle their life. People come for so many different reasons, and it doesn't have to be just this like big, bold sign that tells you need help.
I see somebody in chat saying, are you saying a therapist can be a dating coach? And for me personally, I want to say that I talk to my therapist about everything. Yeah, in the beginning, we did go over, my childhood trauma and the things that, kind of got me to where I'm at today. But I also talk to her about my day-to-day life. Like if I'm struggling to make a decision, whether it's about work, friendships, relationships, anything, my diet, my confidence, like anything that I'm struggling with, I can talk to my therapist about. Like, not necessarily saying that they're gonna because I feel like when you tell somebody about a relationship that you have with another person, like you're obviously leaving out half of what's actually happening because it's your own perspective. But so if you want relationship advice, I would go to couples therapy if I was going to try to like work on my relationships with therapy. But I do talk to my therapist about relationships and stuff. One thing, I do talk to my therapist about my anxiety, and she told me to like keep a journal and to write down anytime that I'm feeling like I have anxiety or just like really high emotions, to write down what's happening in that moment, so I can figure out the triggers for like my anxiety or any other thing that I have going on. Like, why am I feeling so negative or so like down?
And
so
you
I can figure out my triggers.
Overall personal patterns,
yes.
right?
I see a question in chat. They asked if a therapist can diagnose you with I think it was depression, anxiety, or do therapists give a diagnosis like that, or do you have to go somewhere like a psychiatrist or something?
Most therapists are trained to do diagnosis.
Okay.
And people need medication, then they go to either a psychiatrist. Some nurse practitioners are able to do medications, and some people get medications from their general internist. But my first choice is always someone who is more trained than an internist. But in some communities, they might not have access to a psychiatrist very readily. So often people use their internist. But obviously a psychiatrist has more training in this area. So that's always my first choice.
Okay. And how would you recommend people dealing with being burnt out from streaming or working every day? Because it is very hard, like showing up in a space like content creation where you have to interact with so many people every day. Not only are people saying things that are like lifting you up, but there are people also saying things that are bringing you down as well too, and then putting in all these hours in front of a screen entertaining. How would you recommend like dealing with burnout?
That's such a great question, especially, I mean, in what you do and what so many people do, where it's multiple hours. And as you said, the feedback is either wonderful or it can be really harsh. Is how do you kind of take time when you think about each day, each week, each month, and what does that look like as far as being able to take in time for downtime, self-care, and also how do you really filter the comments, right? And filter, it feels really good to have the good comments and take those in, but also be a little bit of Teflon with the negative. Right. And understanding that ultimately those comments say a little bit more about that person writing them than they do about you. Right. Because usually what we know about people who are writing things online, it's coming usually from a place of pain within them than it has anything to do with about who they're writing to. So being able to kind of step back and look at it, and is it really constructive feedback? Because some comments might be constructive feedback, and that's different than being mean.
Yeah.
And we all get constructive feedback, right? That's just part of life. But constructive feedback is different than someone being mean. And understanding that, while it hurts, it says more about the person writing it and where they're coming from in their life, and the pain that they might be in, or the jealousy or the envy that they might be experiencing about, how successful you are and how would they wish they were doing what you were doing or something like that. Okay. So then being able to kind of step back from it and
do you guys have any more questions?
Think, do I have to take this on? Is this about me or is it about them? And not owning it.
One more question. How do you handle not eating due to mental illness? And I want to touch on my own personal experience. Like for me personally, I do have a lot of anxiety, which makes it very hard for me to eat. When I do eat, I feel sick. And so which makes me not want to eat because I don't want to feel that way. And
Right.
so what would you recommend? Like, so for me, I can't like, when I wake up in the morning, I can't eat if it's too early. And then I usually will, like, sometimes I'll forget to eat because I don't have an appetite, or I'll eat really late, and which also doesn't help me. So yeah, what would you recommend for people that are suffering with eating properly, like eating when they're supposed to be eating?
So this is tricky because it's obviously so specific to each person. And given that I
Yeah.
do have a background with eating disorders and disordered eating, that's a really tricky question because everyone is so unique. But one thing to really remember is our bodies are actually machines, right? If you think of, if any of you own cars, I mean, I'm a city person. I happen to have a car here, but in general,
No pizza, I'm not.
if you think of cars, right? Cars need fuel to run, right? You don't put gas in your car, you don't plug it in if it's electric. You're not going anywhere. Our bodies are machines. We do need to take care of them in a regular way and regular maintenance. And that includes food and hydration on a regular schedule. So while I know intermittent fasting is very popular, we have to also be careful with that depending on somebody if they have an eating disorder or disordered eating in their history. So being mindful of how we kind of fuel our bodies, because not eating can also contribute to low mood, right? Not eating can also contribute to our brains not functioning as well, right? Our cognition doesn't work as well. I mean, all of us can relate to that hangry feeling, right? And you
Yeah.
get kind of foggy and you're not thinking as clearly and you're more short-tempered and you can't even decide, do I want Thai? Do I want pizza? Italian? French? You know, New York.
Yeah.
Order all that in whenever I want, right? So, you know, like you can't even think it through because you've just gone too long, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, really coming up with some tips and strategies that work for you, even, you know, kind of pushing through. Like for some people, they know, like I know for me in the morning, I have, but it has to be something like, for me, it's quite frankly, it's the same thing every morning because it works for me. I have peanut butter on, like that holds me over. It's fast, it's easy because my morning routine is so crazy. So, but I know it's going to hold me. But if I have nothing, I'm going to feel like crap. But I'm not going to sit here and also make eggs and this and that.
Yeah, you know what? I do see, like, so when I think about eating, I'm like, when I think about making a meal, I'm like, I have to go all out, I have to make a meal, I have to, like, and that's kind of overwhelming sometimes when you're like, man, I have to make 3 meals today. You know what?
yeah.
I don't even want to do this, or like, and another thing that I do is I don't connect like my bad moods to like how I'm taking care of myself. Like, I feel bad today because my mind is just, I'm just depressed. Like, that's why. But also I'm like, when's the last time I ate? I haven't eaten since yesterday. That's probably why I feel like crap, but I don't think about it.
Well, thanks for taking the time today and, you know, really sharing your experience and sharing your experience with your followers, because anytime we have discussions about mental health and mental illness, I think it really just enables, you know, the dialogue to move forward for people to have a better understanding of what therapy actually is versus what people are afraid of it being. And I really appreciate you taking the time today.
Thank you. I had a good time. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you have a good rest of your day.
You too. I had a good time also. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.